family, and welcome to another episode of Role Model Experts Cafe. I'm your host, Dr. L, the Parent Whisperer, and today with me, I have an amazing lady. Her name is Meilin Ehlke. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did perfectly, Ali.
Fantastic. Now, I've had a chance to work with her. I've seen her on stage. I have heard about her message and how she shows up in the world, and she is amazing. And I really wanted you guys to hear her message and know more about her and what she does. So, welcome to the show, Mylin. I really appreciate you taking time to be here. And thank you, audience, for tuning in and watching this video. Please tell us a little bit about how you got to do what you do and what your passion is, and we'll go from there.
Okay, thank you very much first for having me on your show. It's really exciting too. And I love always our time together. Yeah, I had to think about that because I did read your note. And I would say I cannot not do who I am. So it is really, I've lived all my life myself, and any stepping stones that came brought me closer to what I'm supposed to live, which I'm always living. It sounds funny, it's a little shamanic, but it started when I was a little child. I spoke the truth, which was very hard for adults to hear. I knew when people would die or when people were lying, and so I quieted up then for a while, rather young already. My dad said I suddenly was quiet. I didn't laugh anymore so much. It was around just when I got into school. So that has been with me. I'm a little bit undercover, and maybe the last 15 years, I wanted to share that more and more with the world, and live that part again. Yeah. And so I also learned now that I speak with old friends and we all start remembering what we did when we were in school or something. They said I always would say then. So I could not stop. Even I tried maybe to be more quiet and not speak so much. I was then, considered shy, but I just had decided not to talk so much. And now that's my life, after the radio show and my podcast and being on stages, it starts bubbling up and it becomes more and more important. And I remember a beautiful woman. She was the grand shaman of the southern hemisphere, and she said once, Meilin, it will just start like a trickle out of a creek, and it'll just move further and become a huge river one day. And then I understood what she meant. I could not silence myself anymore.
Right. Now,
so that's
one of the things that I actually love about you, and I noticed it right away, is the authenticity that comes across as you show up and as you present. So tell us a little bit more about you and your company and what you do currently that's keeping you busy and what your passion is.
Yeah, I love bringing people into oneness, I would say, and connect them with everything existing, because that has been my search. And I'm someone, how can I be authentic, right? It's very important for me to walk my talk. It is all of my life experiences, similar to you, Ali, right? They formed us, and everyone else, they form you. They are an integral part of you. And they want to be lived on all our facets. And this is what we should teach. And then we're happy about it, right? Then you use the word passion a few times already. It's this something that makes us give a skip in our walk, right? And that makes us laugh. And when we laugh a lot, we're wide and we see the beauty of the world, and especially of other people.
Right.
Yeah, so that was important for me and is still, and that became one more time very, I don't want to use the word important anymore, but I have to. When I became a mother, I really wanted to be an example for my son. I didn't want to tell him things to do. Yeah, so he could unfold, and I really already had a hard time looking for a name, because all the names gave him a label, what to be. And then I didn't want to give him a German name. I looked around the world at all the names, but at the end I found a name which was a whole man. Yeah, so I want him to be whole, and I wish that really for every child. So I nudge everyone who's listening, observe your child, see what they are, and if they, even like me, they speak the truth, listen. And many of our children do that all the time already with 2, 3, 4 years old, and they're so considered in that moment of being a child, but they remember so much, right? I just spoke with my son yesterday in the car, and I told him that he remembered so much, and he still does if I refer to things when he was in that age. And we still say, oh, children can't remember, but we do, and they do. And you and I, right, we have remembered as well, and many others, so that we take that more serious. I think this is going to be important and going to become also a big part of how they can develop and form their life, which impacts the world we live in and this beautiful planet.
Right. So one of the things that you mentioned that really struck a chord with me is the fact that society has expectations of us. We have responsibilities, and we get pulled in many different directions, whether it's the schooling and what's being taught to us at school, or how to behave, in a social setting, or as a parent, what you're supposed to do for your kids and the responsibilities of family life. Many times, what happens is we maybe not forget about ourselves, but become disconnected from ourselves. And the work that you're doing is very important in that sense, because I remember when I decided to leave my practice, which was an award-winning practice. Why would I want to, like, I couldn't explain it, that there was this disconnection despite the great results that was happening. And it took me literally a couple of years to really reconnect to my true passions and to who I am and what I want to do with my life and the purpose. And it took 2 years because I was disconnected. I was searching to find it. And it was not an easy task to find it. And people are like, oh, yeah, of course, I know what I do or what I want or what I stand. But we evolve as individuals too. So sometimes who you have become is very different than what you were as a child, for instance, right? And if we put expectations and responsibilities on children, sometimes we also cause them to disconnect with their passions and how they want to show up and share their gifts with the world, right?
Yeah,
So I
and
don't know
that,
why I started talking so much, but I just wanted to say that
no,
what you're
that's
doing is
important.
really,
Life is a conversation. When two people come together more, we grow from the wisdom, because there is an exchange happening of energy and of wisdom. And this is the most important, to be very in the moment, right? Even though you may have we both interview a lot. So there is a way of asking, but to stay more in the present and see what wants to be spoken, then we're open for the future, because we all sense who's going to listen, who's going to watch exactly this show. And so what you want to speak out and give voice to is important for whoever is going to watch it. So I've experienced that often in life. And I want to get back to that point. So yes, in my work, I even see that a lot, Ali, that I have, in a way, reconnect people to their childhood, where they're born, to that environment, because that has formed us. And we are so often trained to leave it behind, right? If you maybe not come, if you come from a village, or, then maybe you're not supposed to be in a village. There's a lot of stigmas, a certain country, a certain social setting, right? There's always someone who has something to judge about where we come from or what we have experienced. But again, the landscape, it's again shamanically, it forms us. We communicate as children extremely with the landscape. And it is so different for you. It's been different for you, right? You had a much more rock, sands, ancientness. And even though I live here in Germany, I have a lot of green, and I miss that often. I've learned wherever I've lived in the country, in the world, there has to be a little green. Otherwise, I'm not fully me, even though if it's more rocky, but there over here and there, suddenly there is some of this fresh green, I should say. And I have it right here now too. But I'm also on ancient landscape of an ancient ocean, and the rocks that come out here are coral reefs, right? And this gives us information of how we think, and we take that information out into the world. Absolutely. And share it. And if there is a disconnect, there's always something missing, and we sense it. It is whatever you do then in your work, in your profession, it's not 100% fully, because a facet is missing, a facet is not spoken about. Like, you know, for me, the facet of that was silencing, or, but I did that myself, or other things, right? And when we can open that up again and pull that memory back in, then suddenly we feel full, I feel full, you feel full. Our posture changes, the way we walk, the way we talk, it all gets loosened up and light, and we are more ourselves. And again, more fun.
It's really interesting. You mentioned the rocks and the plants, and it took me back, you know, a few decades ago when I first came to the United States. Of course, I came from Europe, and earlier before that was Asia. I went from Iran to Germany, and then from Germany to United States. And I recalled clearly that when I stepped off the plane, because back in those days they actually had stairs, and you would actually go down the plane and be on the ground, and then you would go into the airport, right? So as I stepped onto the ground in North America, I felt the ground feel different. Now, children are more in tune with their surroundings and how they receive and connect with things. And somehow I felt that difference, that there's a difference between how the ground felt underneath my feet in North America as opposed to the old world. And that was really fascinating to me. And for a number of years, it stayed in my mind. And then I'm like, no, it must have been just my imagination. I don't feel that anymore, or I had lost that feeling. Then about 20 years ago, I flew back to Turkey. And as soon as I landed, I'm like, that feeling is there again, now in reverse, basically, how I felt when I got on the plane. And I can't explain it, but it just feels different. Basically, there's different energies. So absolutely.
Yeah, and we're all very in tune. There's a way of walking. There's another, you asked me my life experience that formed me. So I have cerebral palsy, but on top of, I walk different, I wobble more like, yeah. But there was another thing. I would walk and follow energy lines. I didn't know that as a child. I would always walk off the path like a dog, right? If you let animals walk, they follow energy lines, and we have paved straight streets with linear.
Right.
But we humans don't walk. You can see that even on campuses, they have beautiful designed walks and crisscross walks. But we don't do that. We follow energy lines even on a campus. It's fascinating to see. We cannot be trained, and I love that. Yeah, but to become aware of that you follow your own rhythm and your own energies that you want, and that you feel which ones are good for you in different times of your life, different times of your day, or situations. And that you become more in tune and observe that, and observe that also in your children. And going back, I learned that from a Russian woman. She said, so children can become more of who they are. Let them walk and follow them. So I learned to follow my son. Where did he want to go in a park, or when we would go into the woods? And I would be a little behind and see where he wanted to go. And I observed others were dragging their children, or, you know, like almost like a leash. and because they were afraid the child would fall into the water, or I don't know. And you don't have to worry, because children have a way to really feel when there's danger. And I invite you to let them try that out. It strengthens them. Yeah, they'll stop and be there close enough. So if they do fall, just jump after them. You can rescue them, or let them climb a tree. Don't help them. Wait until they're strong enough to go up. And you'll see 3-year-olds can be really, really high up on those trees. And they got a relationship with that. So they explore. And I would love to invite adults as well. Start exploring again your surrounding, your landscape, what you love to do. That is important, that we do what we love. I do what I love in you, right? Because then you're successful in life. And not just in the monetary of a business, but it's in the relationship. It is how you cook, because that is all medicine for myself and for others. It's the love I put into everything. So that's why we say, yeah, do what you love, because there is so much love that comes from me, or the love for, you love to highlight. You're fascinated in speaking with people from around the world, Ali. Yeah. So you loved, but you also spoke about your business. There were things where you were very successful and you loved them. But now there is the time where they want to be rearranged, right? And they fed you and they gave you information, but this is going to go another way. So nothing is wasted. And if we also see that, I think that's important, that we don't waste a moment. It forms us and brings us to where we desire to go.
So Meilin, what are some of the challenges that you see the people that come to work with you have in as far as connecting, as far as pursuing passions, and anything else that you see?
Yeah, so most of them are coaches or healers or teachers, right? Already, and they're open to who they are. But there's a part where they feel they're not sovereign, they're not fully themselves. They feel there's a tightness within their body, or they notice they start censoring here a little bit themselves. And they know they shouldn't, and they try not to, but it always appears. And also, I would say most of them, that they come, they say they can just be who they are with me. And that got me to think a lot, Ali. So why am I one of the few people they have in life, if not the only, where they can really just be who they are? Yeah. So, and then in a way, I give them permission to be who they are and and I'm speaking so much about oneness and reconnecting, but this reconnecting and feeling that you're part of everything and that you're not separated. They feel alone, they feel separated. They think their ideas, they're too wild. I have many spirituals, so they converse with the cosmos, with animals, with plants, and they have been, especially our age upward, kept crazy. Now it's a different topic. We can speak about it in salons. We speak about it on the internet. The youngsters, they have it in their cartoons, right? All this magic, and it's different in the movies. But we were held, my generation still, if I was born 68, people were shut into a lunatic, right?
Right. Absolutely.
So, you were shut away. And so there was this fear of parents, right? And that came in us, and that is still in people, and to dissolve that fear.
Right, exactly. So when people start working on discovering this, I know that for me it was not a smooth journey. What are the obstacles that you find that they need to overcome? Things that's, they're like, okay, well, I have realized there's something not quite right here. I want to make a change or do something, but as you give them the layout and what they need to do, there are definitely certain challenges. People have to do something different to get different results, right? So what are those kind of challenges that you see people struggle with?
Time. We're not very patient. Yeah. So even though I come in shamanic, we do rituals or with the sounds, and they're very powerful and strong and transforming, and they rearrange right away something in the body. The whole particles get moved and shift. But then it takes time. Yeah, because it's not just us or you who has to change, or I, it's also the environment. So if you set out this intention, that is a challenge. This is in a way, because you go to this collapse, there is a collapse happens suddenly, or you go into this 0 point where, you know, you've hit on the brakes. First you have to, and then you feel who I am. And to learn in a way, it's also a relearning. And you have to be patient, and you have to be courageous. And this is hard to have fun or wait. Yeah, or reconsider what other people are speaking, to lose judgment. And this is not so easy. It's easy to hear and read in a book, but then it comes physically, it happens. And then what is the most beautiful are really our relationships, our communities that can hold us and embrace us to go through this, and encourage us to keep on unfolding and trying this new way. And suddenly, you know, because you have everyone has this vision, but they don't come fast enough. But suddenly then there is this moment, oh, people are now telling me the vocabulary that I wanted to hear 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago. Yeah.
This is like what you're saying. I can personally testify to it because number one, I had an identity crisis that if I'm a doctor, I'm not seeing patients, then who am I? Then in that moment of self-doubt and trying to figure things out and reconnect, the other interesting part, like you said, is people's expectations, their view and impression of you. For so long, you have been this person, and now you're going through this transformation. And it's actually that change a lot of times upsets other people around you because they didn't ask for that change. They're not ready for that change. So sometimes they have difficulty supporting you going through this metamorphosis. And it's a really interesting time, and it can be very difficult because, you know, there are people who know you for who you were, and who you are becoming might be different than what they had in mind when they got to know you. So it's very important for us to be aware of that with our circle of friends, family, and those people that we tend to look for support and connecting, right? So what you're saying like resonates deeply in me. That's, you know, those couple of years, as transformational, as amazing as they were, they had these other sides to them that, you know, we don't always talk about it, but it really exists. That any kind of transformation you go through, it's not just you going through a transformation, you bring along an entire tribe with
You
you,
bring
whether
along
you realize
a
it or not. Right, exactly.
tribe. I love that. And you know, the most important at the end is your parent.
Right.
It goes back to the parent. So if I would look at all of them, it lies with the parents. So luckily they're like ancestral healings we do, because there's a parent of the parent of the parent of the parent. Exactly. And around the world now, I'm noticing again how they're being emphasized: ancestral rituals, retreat offerings. So you start thinking about it. Because suddenly when they agree and see who you are, because again, they wanted always what they had trauma that you as the child to have it. So they already molded some things, but they really wanted you to have a beautiful life, but then they were afraid, right? So, and I can see that in my life myself. And then they realize, oh no, Meilin is Meilinish, and that you really do that. And then they say, yeah, and then they say, oh, I'm sorry I said that or pushed you. And the very fascinating part is, if I come sometimes back and said, Mama, I was in a journey, and I saw that I was climbing a tree. In that moment, you said, Meilin, be careful. Yeah. And I asked her, I said, Mama, that moment I started being careful how I would jump around in the woods, and I didn't go so often anymore then. And she said, you know, I can remember that moment. And I bit on my tongue after I had said it, and I said, I should have not said that. So, right. So this has to dissolve. And when you feel then free to talk about what's going on with you to your parent, doesn't matter what age they are then, or we are, that again dissolves, and that brings another ease to it.
Right. That's amazing. So
Mhm.
talking obviously is an important part of the conversation. So tell us a little bit more about the tips and the secrets that you think our audience members would benefit from implementing right away, right after this, to go ahead and connect and move forward. What would be some
Yeah,
tips?
is become aware of your surrounding. That's the first thing. See the plants. Take the time just to sit and to feel what you're sitting on. If it's the couch, right? If it's grass outside, if you're sitting on wood, stone, start feeling your surrounding and see everything in your house more as medicine, and what is not medicine to you and doesn't feed you and make you happy, gift it to someone else or exchanges. Normally less is more, I've learned also from others, so it makes us free to travel more and to explore the world. And because so many of us and your listeners are parents, really take the time, the precious time, to be in the moment with your child. It doesn't matter what age, if it's a teenager like mine now, to create moments and say, have I had fun, or have I laughed with my child today?
Right. Right.
Yeah, just that's simple, and involve them in things. And I think share more about yourself. So again, as a mother and a wife and daughter, share more about what you're doing, what you envision, what you dream of.
Mm-hmm.
And so they can understand me. So again, if I told my son, I even asked him questions. I remember he was 8. I said, "Oh, Thilo, someone asked me to do a radio show. Should I do it once a month, twice a month, or 4 times a month? Because it's going to cut in your bedtime, and you will have to be very, very quiet for this 1 hour."
Mm-hmm.
And he said, 4 times a month. And I said, "Why?" "Yeah, Mama, so more people can hear you." Yeah, but this is so important. This is a beautiful example. He was always quiet for 7 years at this 1 hour, 9 o'clock in European time in the evening.
Right.
This is empowering. So he was standing behind me, and not also the other way around. And that bond that provides support, power, there are no words for it, but there's an energy of seeing each other and seeing also the big picture in the world out of that
Absolutely.
relationship.
Yeah, being open to opportunities and possibilities that just kind of manifest and bubble out of life is just one of those wonders. You mentioned in the beginning, early on in our talk, that time is one of the challenges. And oftentimes, when you're talking about transformation and making change, people think of time and they think linearly, that it's x amount of minutes, x amount of hours. But the reality is that time for us is really defined as moments, like you described. And you could have a lot of moments in a very short amount of time at the same time. Just taking 10 seconds, and I'm just putting the number out there, but it literally, to hold your child in your arm and make eye contact and let them know that with looking at them, that you are there, that you see them, that you care for them. That might take 2 seconds, it might take 10 seconds, but the child remembers that being much longer and will remember it for many years to come and will feed off of that. So this linear concept of time that we get stuck in and trying to divide our days into hours and minutes is not necessarily true of how we can actually bring about change and transformation, both in our lives and the lives of those around us. So
yeah. And there comes there you can collapse time. It can hold still, and you can accelerate time. So we've forgotten this gift and how to do that. But it's possible. So the more, and again, why is oneness so important? If you're in this unity, in this unison with everything, there is the support that time gets expanded and fuller, or you collapse. That's how a lot of things were built over the thousands and thousands and thousands of years, is playing with time,
Right.
to
I
give an
think
importance to time.
I think it was in the book Power of Now by Elkhart, I believe, that he said, for the person who is in the moment, time stands still and is infinite. So to me, that was a very meaningful thing, that if you can stay
Yeah.
in the moment, you can be connected to all of the past and all of the future, and be able to kind of draw from all of it, all of the resources available to you in that sense. So yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely. Very cool. Very cool. I love this kind of conversation. I can
Yeah.
talk about it for hours. So, Meilin, tell us a little bit about how people can connect with you, work with you, follow you. Let us know where it's best to find you.
Social media, under Meilin Ehlke, you can find me. You can have a longer chat if you go to meetmeilin.com, and or my podcast, where I do also speak about moving to oneness in all different ways and with different people, to make it easier for you to be connected with everything that exists and to learn more about yourself.
Awesome. Awesome. Yep. So I'm going to make sure that we put all the links and the connections in the description box. So I invite all of our
Thank you.
audience members to go ahead and connect with you, since this is all about connecting anyways,
Yeah.
and making sure that you have an awesome resource here at hand. So get connected, follow Meilin, and I look forward to further collaborations with you as well. And I thank our audience members for being here today with us. Any parting words of wisdom before we finish our session today?
Be you. Simple.
Sorry?
Be you. Be
Oh, be you.
yourself.
I like that. I
Yeah.
like that. That was brief and impactful. I like that. Thank you. I appreciate it. Well said. Thank you, guys. If you haven't already done so, please go ahead and click subscribe on the channel so you get notified of all the amazing speakers and experts that we bring about. So you have more and more resources added to your wealth of connections. And we go from there. We look forward to seeing you. Cheers.
Goodbye, everyone.